Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the North Fair Oaks Community Council meeting corresponding to the month of November 2020. Sandy, if you could please take roll, that would be great.
Absolutely. Chair Everardo Rodriguez.
Present.
Vice Chair Juan Carlos Prado. Council Member Beatriz Cerrillo.
Present.
Council Member Linda Lopez. Council Member Joni Gillespie.
She's here. She's just
here, present.
muted. Yeah.
Okay. Council Member Brooks Esser.
He's listed as an attendee, but not a panelist. I think he needs to be added to the panelist view.
Okay, present. Council Member Jennifer Ruiz. Council Member Blair Whitney.
And I think Blair is also
here.
muted.
I just unmuted myself. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
And also, so Linda Lopez is not going to be able to join us today because she has been ill. And she wasn't able to attend today. She let me know. Oh, and I see Brooks now is here. Great.
I am here.
Great. Thank you all. If there's any public comment for those attending tonight's meeting, anyone may speak up to 2 minutes on any topic that is not on the agenda tonight. If you have public comment, you can let Sandra Becerra know, and or you can raise your hand, and she will enable your microphone so that you can speak. There's a limit of 2 minutes, and we appreciate if you limit yourself to that time. And also the council may not discuss or take action on items that are not on the agenda tonight. And do we have any public comment, Sandy?
Yes, we do. We have a written comment, and then we also have another public comment. So I can get started with Emma Gonzalez.
Hi, Sandy. Let me know when you're ready.
Okay.
You'll cue me up. You'll let me start. Okay. Hi. Good evening, council members. My name is Emma Gonzalez with the Office of Community Affairs. I wanted to take a moment to publicly acknowledge Mitzi de la Peña from our office. She has been working and supporting the North Fair Oaks Council now for some years. And she will be leaving the position and has accepted a new position outside of the county. So we want to thank her for her job well done, as well as wish her, many great opportunities that life will bring her. But one of the things that Mitzi put together most recently that I would love to be able to share is a video that really highlights the importance of mask wearing and outreach that our team has done and what she has put together by one of our own council members. Can you play that quick video, please?
Yep, absolutely.
I think that's not in the beginning. Oh.
Okay. Can you see that?
Yep. Thank
Great.
you. There's no sound. Sandy? Sandy?
No sound?
No sound?
No sound.
I apologize. Let's see. It's probably the audio from me as a speaker.
So maybe if you, you're sharing that screen, right?
Yes, I'm sharing the screen with the video, and you can see it playing, but not the audio.
Right. Yeah, that's tricky sometimes.
Could I ask you to paste in the link in the chat? I know sharing video and audio is hard, but we can click on it at our own convenience and get the full video.
That would be great, Blair. Thank you so much. I do want to just share a fabulous video that not only Mitzi and Mary Lou from our team put together, but also highlighting one of our very own council members, previous council members, Frances.
Yeah.
And her family. So we really want to, acknowledge she put some time and really showed the importance of wearing a mask and a message that not only gets to our own community, our youth, our families. And so we'll put that into the link and hopefully you guys can look at that and view it at your own time. But it's already shared through our social media outlets and it's going through a number of different influencers and boosting it up as well through different channels. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and I apologize for that not saying. So next we have a public comment. I can go ahead and read it if that's okay, Evan.
Yes, I just would like to thank also, before proceeding with the other public comment, I would also like to thank Mitzi very much for her great work. She was extremely helpful, and those of us who have worked with her realize how flexible and nimble she was able to proceed during the pandemic. So thank you very much, Mitzi. Our best wishes, and stay in touch.
Okay, and actually Mitzi is in the meeting.
Do you want to say something, Mitzi?
Yeah, I was just trying to make sure I follow all. I mean, after so many boards and commission and Brown Act trainings, I was trying to do the right thing and submit my public comments. So thank you, Sandy, for that. So with my 2 minutes that I truly respect, because it's time and all, I truly, truly appreciate each and every one of you, council members, from Chair Rodriguez to Brooke Esser to all of you guys. Each and every one of you guys have really taught me a lot about what it is to be a public servant, and as well as represented the community. So I appreciate each and every one of you. You guys are left in really, really good hands. Sandy is going to be amazing and great at this. She's part of the outreach team, and she has done already wonderful things for the community. So I know I leave you guys in the best of hands. And then thank you, Emma, for sharing those kind words in that video. I truly, truly appreciate each and every one of you, and as well as Victor Hernandez for the back and forth and the back end for the translation services. So I know my time is almost up. So again, thank you all, and please keep in touch. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mitzi, and good luck. We'll miss you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so the next public comment, Sandy?
Sure, and so now we can use the raise hand feature for anybody that is joining us, because we do have some participants here in Zoom. And so if you would like to make a public comment, please go ahead and raise your hand now. Okay, all right, seeing no hands, I'm just gonna go ahead and read the comment. Okay, so I'll start the clock. Good evening, North Fair Oaks Council members. As a North Fair Oaks resident, I would like to ask the council members to recommend to the Board of Supervisors of San Mateo County to approve the Fair Oaks Library to be part of the San Mateo County Library System. Because as a resident, I would like to see the same services and programs other libraries in the county have, like computers to take home, sewing machines, musical instruments, programs like coding for children, arts and crafts, preparing high school students to write essays for college, and many others in those libraries have the privilege to have. Also, I would like to see more variety in the materials available for this community. A lot of people that visit North Fair Oaks Library are North Fair Oaks residents, and the students who usually visit this library are from Garfield Elementary School, Taft, Hoover Elementary School, and also 2 charter elementary schools we have in the area, Connect Charter School, and KIP Excelencia School. Also, I want to ask for the possibility of this library's name to be North Fair Oaks Library as part of unincorporated San Mateo County, and it does not have a library like other cities around. Thank you, North Fair Oaks Council and San Mateo Board of Supervisors, for your attention. Sincerely, Rosario Gonzalez.
Thank you, Sandy. Is there any additional public comment?
Victor, are there any comments on the phone line?
Thank you, Sandra. I'm not seeing any at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Back to you, Chair Rodriguez.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the third item, item number 3. We'll have a presentation related to the library, and it is a proposed change to the Fair Oaks Library Service Agreement between Redwood City and the San Mateo County Libraries. We're going to have the presentation by the library director for the Redwood City Public Library, Derek Wolfram. Welcome, Derek.
Thank you very much, Chair Rodriguez. Appreciate the time this evening. Thank you also to the other council members. I'm Derek Wolfgram. I'm the director of the Redwood City Public Library, and wanted to speak with you a little bit about some discussions that we've been having about the management of the Fair Oaks Library. Also here tonight, and also having been part of those discussions, we have Justin Mates, the Deputy County Executive for County of San Mateo, and Anne-Marie Despain, the County Librarian for San Mateo County Libraries. So they're both present if you have questions along the way that pertain to them. But I'll go over the main presentation points, and then we can open it up for any discussion or questions that there might be either for myself or for them. So as you may be aware, the County of San Mateo and the City of Redwood City have collaborated on library services for the North Fair Oaks community for over 40 years. And since the creation of the San Mateo County Libraries, JPA, they have been part of that joint service as well, providing funding to help support the North Fair Oaks branch. Over that entire time, usage of the library has included both residents of North Fair Oaks and Redwood City, since the library sits right on the border between the city and the unincorporated area. The County of San Mateo has requested that we investigate the possibility of the San Mateo County Libraries JPA taking over management of the library. If this happens, the city would continue to support the library with funding to help pay for its operating costs. The city has really enjoyed the opportunity to provide library services in North Fair Oaks and remains very committed to the community. The biggest potential advantage of changing over is that the JPA, by its nature and by its funding structure, is able to provide more open hours per week. The Fair Oaks Library would be open ultimately a minimum of 60 hours per week, compared to the 50 hours of service that the city was able to provide each week pre-pandemic. Some of the programs and activities may change, but many of the signature programs that people are used to would remain in place, and there would still be the Summer Learning Challenge, there would still be bilingual story times, there would be many of the programs that we know the community has come to enjoy, just offered by a different group of staff. Fair Oaks Library users would also continue to be able to request materials on hold from the Redwood City Downtown Library, other Redwood City libraries, as well as all of the other libraries in the Peninsula Library System. So that would not change. Both the Redwood City and San Mateo County Libraries and the County of San Mateo, kind of all three of those entities ultimately agree in this discussion that what we want is what's best for the residents of North Fair Oaks. So I've done a fair amount of outreach over the last few weeks to discuss the proposed transition, including conversations with nearby schools, neighborhood associations, the Familias Unidas program, CARON, Police Activities League, Redwood City 2020. We've discussed at the Redwood City Library Board, been in communication with the Latino Community Council of Redwood City, just really trying to make sure that all of our partners and collaborators within the library services are aware of what's going on. I haven't had really any significant concerns that people have brought forward. Some logistical questions about how it would work and, which library card would I have and that kind of thing. But I haven't gotten really anything that rises to the level of significant concern. And a lot of the people that I've spoken with are definitely excited about the possibility for expanded access to the library. So we felt it was really important to engage the community in the discussion through those outreach contacts that I've made, as well as through the North Fair Oaks Community Council tonight. So there's an opportunity for public input, as well as for council members to ask any questions, express any concerns, or give us any suggestions to consider as we move forward in the exploration of who manages the Fair Oaks Branch Library. So that's really the issue before you in a nutshell. And I'm happy to address any questions that you might have about this item. And I don't know whether Anne Marie or Justin have anything that they might like to add before we go into questions. I'd like to offer that opportunity to them as well.
I think I'll just take the opportunity to introduce myself. I haven't attended a council meeting before, but I'm Anne Marie Despain. I'm the Director of Library Services for San Mateo County Libraries. I've been director for about 10 years and worked for the system for about 20. Derek and I have known each other for quite a while and have worked collaboratively and talked a lot about serving the unincorporated as well as the incorporated residents. So I'm happy to answer questions as well.
And I would just say briefly that, Redwood City and the county have enjoyed a partnership in serving this community, both incorporated and unincorporated residents. The JPA has took over the county's role in that, several decades ago, but it have always appreciated the partnership with the city, acknowledging, both of our obligations to serve residents in this community and excited for this new stage, but also continue to partner with the city on it, who has been a great partner over the years.
Thank you all for your comments, and thanks very much, Derek, for your presentation. This is certainly news, at least for me. I didn't know about this, but I will open the floor for council members to ask questions. Please go ahead, either raise your hand or just go ahead. Go ahead, Beatrice.
There we go. Since the Fair Oaks Library opened, has it always been a joint partnership?
It has. Yeah, I think it's always been run by the city, first in the small space that it used to be in the Fair Oaks Community Center.
Correct.
And then continued to be run by the city when the Human Services building was built and we moved over there. But yeah, it's been a collaboration both in terms of funding and in terms of kind of awareness and community engagement the entire time that branch has existed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do any of you, either Derek or Justin or Anne-Marie, know why now, why the change now, and whether there's a compelling positive outlook for the change?
I would say, and Derek may have more to add here, but I think this is something that has been kind of generally discussed for a little while as an opportunity to maybe align some of the service for residents in the unincorporated area of North Fair Oaks with some of the other library services that the JPA offers. But so something's in discussion. I don't know that there was something triggering sort of right now it happening, but something we've been talking about, and the city was open to trying something new in this area. So yeah, I don't know, Derek, if you have any more to add to that.
No, I think I agree. I said it's something that there have been discussions about over time. I know that there have been discussions between individual county supervisors and individual city council members in Redwood City about it over the last few years, and I think it just reached a point where we saw an opportunity to potentially go ahead and move forward with it. So I don't think there's anything particularly like urgent or emergent about the need to change at this exact moment. But I do think that as we talked about, the expansion of hours would be great for the community at such time, of course, as libraries are open again. And Anne-Marie and I have had a lot of conversations about the fact that, we both feel like the San Mateo County libraries and the Redwood City libraries all offer really tremendous programming opportunities and really great activities for the community. There's just, we each have our own areas of focus. We each have our own strategic plans. And I think there's been a feeling with some of the members of the Board of Supervisors that there may be a great alignment between what the county library system is doing and what the needs of the North Fair Oaks community are.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Anne-Marie, does the San Mateo County Library System currently serves any communities somewhat or even vaguely similar to North Fair Oaks?
So the county library system is a joint powers authority. It was formed in '99, and we serve 11 cities, and then we're responsible for serving the unincorporated areas of the county. We have a couple service agreements. The one that we're talking about in Redwood City, primarily because of just the location of the Fair Oaks branch. We also have a service agreement with Daly City because of the Broadmoor coma. The revenue that supports the JPA is a levy that was put in place many years ago. And so our funding structure is very different than our city library partners. So that's a dedicated resource that we draw most of our revenues from. So I would say that we serve many communities throughout the county, both incorporated and unincorporated. The closest libraries to this area are East Palo Alto Library and also Atherton. Atherton's building a new library currently. So there's a little crossover, and we've talked about some of the crossover populations down in that area as well. But as far as unincorporated, you probably know that the largest unincorporated area is the coast side. And so we spend a lot of time thinking about that. And that is one of the county libraries, the Half Moon Bay Library. That's a partnership between that city and county as well.
Yeah. And do you have, or are there any specific plans already set in motion for the North Fair Oaks branch?
Well, I mean, things are definitely, first off, there needs to be approval of a new agreement. And so we're working on that. We have both a library operations committee, which is an advisory group that advises our board that's made up of city managers. It's been discussed at that level. We also have a governing board that's made up of elected officials, and they just recently approved us pursuing a new agreement. So it'll go back to them. And then I think immediately, it's a upside down world right now, but we are offering, I think, some robust services through our Curbside. And so that would be the immediate, how do we transfer, how do we work to transfer some of the assets of the current library as well as the knowledge of the community. We'll be engaged in partnering on that, I think, for quite a while. But I think we'd want to immediately, I know Redwood City, Derek, and I have talked about the idea of starting Curbside at the end of this month. But I think that would be our concern, and to replicate what we're offering at our other locations. We have about 5-day-a-week service right now of Curbside, and we are looking to see if we can open in some capacity in the new year.
Yeah, I'd say Redwood City is in a similar position for now. We're actually, November 30th will be the day that we're reopening the Fair Oaks Library for Curbside services. It has been closed since March. And part of that had to do with staffing safety and the way that the Redwood City has approached it. Part of it had to do with the fact that a lot of our Fair Oaks library staff have actually been working through the Fair Oaks Community Center, processing rental assistance applications and some of that. So we've been a little shorthanded, but we've pulled that together. So actually Fair Oaks, our Shayburg branch, and our Redwood Shores branch are all opening for Curbside services that same week. And I think that I agree with Anne-Marie that their approach is offering a little bit more access, probably in terms of days per week. We're starting with 2 days per week right now while we gauge demand at the smaller branch libraries, and certainly we can ramp it up if we need more than that. But that's where we're at for our starting point, November 30th.
Thank you. And Blair had his hand up. Go ahead, Blair.
Yeah, I worked at public libraries for about 8 or 10 years, San Jose Public Library and branches, main library, and at San Jose State, I was really excited about the joint library, and I'm a heavy library user. And so there's some nuances about jurisdictions. Like when I want to do reserves and interlibrary loans or streaming canopy, and they're like, oh, you're not a city resident, but you have a city library card. And I'm totally in favor of this. I have a feeling that if the city budget is shrinking and the county budget is more stable, the branch is low-hanging fruit for the city to cut hours and to cut services, and our community deserves more. So I support doing this, but doing it in the right way, because collaborative agreements, like at San Jose State, they did the university and the city. And I like how Kenyatta is part of the county system too, I think. I'm not totally sure, but I knew I could reserve things. I want to stay affiliated with Redwood City. I want to be able to have the cross-pollination where if there's great programming around the Day of the Dead, or, taking pictures with iPads and doing artwork, that we can program at both sites, whether it's a county branch or whatever. So I'm totally supportive of this. It's worth doing and worth studying so that we do it right. And I'm also interested in some of the cutting edge stuff about delivering books and materials to seniors. People are aging in place, and it's hard to get stuff if you can't drive anymore. I know, like, you're probably dealing with that with coastside residents, but I'm interested in just getting them the best range of services for all the diverse residents, young and old and in between, and all ethnic backgrounds. So that's it.
Thank you, Blair.
May I
please go
just
ahead.
wanted to add in terms of the issue about access and specific services within the Peninsula Library System. I think that San Mateo County Libraries and Redwood City Libraries are probably the two most closely aligned of all of the Peninsula libraries in terms of the resources that we offer and our approaches to service. We do a lot of collaborative activities that are you know, we're kind of the place where a lot of the innovations start. For the Peninsula libraries are in the San Mateo County libraries and the Redwood City libraries, and so I don't see any reason why we couldn't continue that relationship and that pattern. As I mentioned, we will still have the city will still have a funding stake in the Fair Oaks library. That, you know, currently we're providing services with a subsidy from the county library JPA. And we'd kind of be flipping that relationship, that the county library would be providing the services and we would be providing a subsidy to help make that happen.
Thank you, Derek, and thank you, Blair. In terms of representation, how would that work? And let me just explain. So right now, with the Redwood City library system being so close, you know, it's just very easy to call Derek and you know, talk about possible programs for the public. You know, a few public programs that we have collaborated on, and so the communication is seamless and extremely easy. Would moving on to the library system, would the communication be more diffuse, or how would the community of North Fair Oaks ensure that there's going to be representation and easy communication?
I think that's a question for me. So I'm happy to take calls as well, and I may not be as close to the library, but I am a very accessible director. The way it works with our locations, there's a branch manager. In our smaller libraries, perhaps that manager oversees 2 branches, but they work at the location, and many of them attend community council meetings. But we love hearing from the public. We do regular engagement. We do surveys. We do a lot of outreach. I mean, obviously some of that has been put on hold, but we just did a resident and a patron survey, hired a vendor consultant to do that. So we love getting feedback. I mean, we really feel like it's our job to serve the community, the community's needs, and we don't know what those are. We don't assume that we know what those are. So I think that would be our goal. We'd be happy to attend this meeting on a regular basis, provide updates, and get input. So I think we wouldn't want you to lose that that kind of environment. And then hopefully, I mean, Derek and honestly, there's a lot of overlap in our county. All of the public libraries work very closely together through the consortium. And as you mentioned, Kenyatta, the community council or the community colleges are part of that as well. And so we meet regularly. And because we share a library catalog, there is kind of this seamless nature to the public. And so everybody assumes that we're part of the same system. So oftentimes I'm talking to patrons that are actually Redwood City and vice versa. So I think, you know, the system in place really has a nice backbone for this. I think also, you know, we've talked a lot about just Redwood City. I would echo what Derek said, Redwood City and San Mateo County. We're partnering. We're working right now to offer library cards to all students and make those online resources that you referred to seamless. Right now, there's a little bit because of jurisdictional boundaries, but we're working hard to eliminate those as well. And I think we would continue to do that around any of the community needs, as well as communication and communicating with the library.
Great. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions from council members? Further comment? I guess not. All right. Do we have any public comment? Moving on, Sandy.
Okay, to attendees, if you have any public comments, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom. If you have any public comments. Okay, I see one, Gabriela Valencia. Give me just a minute. You can begin speaking as soon as Gabriela, can you unmute yourself? And you can begin speaking once you see the stopwatch. Okay, Gabriela.
Hi, can you hear
Hello.
me?
Yes, thank you. You may begin.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks for this presentation. I'm concerned about moving the management of the North Fair Oaks Public Library, mainly because I'm concerned that this change would create more distance between the residents of North Fair Oaks and the actual management of the library and the people that are in charge of the management. I feel that Mr. Wolfgram, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, sorry, he seems to be in touch with the community quite a bit, and he seems to understand the needs of the North Fair Oaks community, and he truly seems to make an effort to provide the services that our community needs and the flexibility that sometimes our community needs with special programs and things like that. And as with any services that are provided directly by the county, I'm concerned that the representation of the North Fair Oaks community will be lacking when it comes to decision making about the services that get provided by the library. I think it's important to remember that North Fair Oaks has been historically underrepresented when it comes to decision making on issues that affect our community directly. So I think it's important to keep that in mind with any decisions that get made. And if this change is made, I would ask that the North Fair Oaks Council request that a North Fair Oaks community representative serve directly in whatever committee is used to make decisions that affect the library that provide services for us. Because as Ms. I believe her name is Anne Marine mentioned, this is a new organization taking over directly for our services. And I think there's a lot to learn about the needs of this community. So I think we need to be well represented when it comes to decision making. Otherwise, I feel like we're going to get lost in the shuffle and we're going to get the short end of the stick when the decisions are made. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Gabriela. Any other public comments? Now would be the time to raise your hand. Okay, I see Ms. Aulate. Hello, good afternoon. Could you unmute yourself, please?
Yes. Hi, good evening.
Wonderful. Okay, give me just a second to start this stopwatch. Go ahead.
Okay, good evening to everybody. I am a resident of North Fair Oaks, and very similar to Ms. Valencia's comments, I'm very concerned about the representation of North Fair Oaks community members on decision making. So whatever committee gets formed, I would hope that members of the North Fair Oaks community can be part of the decision-making process. I'm also very concerned about budgets, and it sounds like the county budget is very robust in terms of helping or having the county libraries stay very much in the community's resources. But I am very concerned about any time there could be budget cuts and which libraries would be cut. I know that we have been underrepresented in North Fair Oaks, and our voices may not always be heard. So that's why I'm making a comment about the about community members being involved in any of the decision-making processes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other public comments on the Zoom line? Please go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, I don't see any others. Are there any comments on the phone line?
Thanks, Sandra. I don't see any at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you again, Derek, for coming and giving us the news, and also Anne-Marie, nice meeting you. I hope we can keep in touch and continue the conversation. I suspect that the transition, if it proceeds, will be seamless for the public, which is always a good thing to minimize confusion and to preserve services. So thank you both very much.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for the feedback that we've had the opportunity to hear that can help us, shape the partnership in a way to make sure that it does meet the needs of the community. Really appreciate knowing what the community concerns are, so that we can address them up front instead of discovering them after the fact.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And moving on to the next item on the agenda, Sandy, is this where we're going to be switching for Captain Corpus presentation?
Yes, please. So now Captain Corpus.
Yeah, so we'll have a presentation by Captain Christina Corpus from the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office. And she's going to talk to us about the youth-related crime rates in North Fair Oaks specifically. Welcome, Captain Corpus.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me this evening. Tonight, I will be presenting a presentation on juvenile crime rate in North Fair Oaks specifically. And we'll be going back to 2016 and comparing it to present. So if we can get the next slide, please. So this report shows the juvenile crime trends in North Fair Oaks from January 1st of 2016 to October 31st of 2020. The Sheriff's Office is committed to addressing juvenile crimes as proactively and effectively as possible. The chart shows, as you can see, in 2016, we had a total of eight different types of crimes that involved juveniles. In 2017, it doubled, went to 16. Then 2018, we had another rise to 26. And then last year, we had 31 cases. To date, we have 15 cases. And, it could, I want to say that it's due to the proactivity and the community programs that we have in our diversion program, but it also could be due to the pandemic as well. Next slide, please. So our assault and battery cases. Assault and battery related crimes remained pretty much around the same from 2016 to 2020. There was a slight decrease in 2019. So the highest, if you can see on the chart, with all the different types of crimes, we do have an issue with our juveniles in North Fair Oaks and assault and battery cases. So that tends to be where the spikes are when it comes to juvenile related crimes. Next slide, please. So our burglary and larceny crimes, those are relatively low when it comes to juveniles. We've had maybe one incident, per year. And then I'm happy to say that our alcohol and opioid related crimes in North Fair Oaks with our youth are substantially on the lower end as well. I wish I could have zeros on there, but we had one case this year, but from 2016 to now we only had one. So we are that is a win for us, because there are other regionally, there's other areas throughout the country that we have a high opioid rate and alcohol rate with youth specifically. So the Sheriff's Office community programs work closely with our community leaders, community groups, business owners, residents to keep vandalism and other types of related crimes low. We work closely with, we have a diversion program, and then we also work closely with our school administrators and their probation department when it comes to truancy crime or kids not going to school, truancy, and then any type of probation. I'll talk about our diversion program in a little bit more, but what we really try to do is the juvenile system is really getting away from incarcerating our youth and providing more programs for diversion to support our youth so then they don't get into the system. But we are going away from incarcerating our youth for crimes that we can put them into programs or provide different types of programming that will help them with not reoffending. Next slide, please. So the Sheriff's Office has a diversion program, and we work with our detectives, we work with the courts, juvenile courts, and we work with the probation department. So if we have an individual who is maybe committed a minor crime, and we have an ability to put them on a contract and put them into counseling and put them in our diversion program, we will do that so they are not put into the juvenile system. So as long as they meet the terms of their contract and complete the diversion program, then the case is adjudicated and it never goes to the juvenile court system. So we also have a tattoo removal program. What we tend to see is when kids younger maybe are involved in some type of gang activity and they have tattoos that they would like to have removed. We do that for free in a partnership with Redwood City Police Department, our probation department, and we have them go through the tattoo removal program for free. And then we also have a crisis intervention. So specifically with the pandemic, we've seen that there's a lot of more vulnerability when it comes to our youth, a lot more depression. So we do have a PERT program, which we refer adults and juveniles to that have maybe been 5150 because maybe they have had some suicidal thoughts or have a depression where they're really having hard coping, and we provide those services to them as well. Next slide, please. So this is a chart that just shows that whenever there's a juvenile involved in a family unit where we have a referral for maybe domestic violence or it's a CPS referral, this is where the children themselves have not committed a crime, but they're a part of a family unit where we have captured that they have been referred to a different agency or put into one of our programs as well. So we have our Community Alliance to Revitalize Our Neighborhood program. We also have our Sheriff's Activities League program, our diversion program that we really try and work with the parents and with our youth to get them into a program that will help them if one of our programs is not appropriate for them. And that's the end of my presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Captain Corpus. Council members, if you have any questions, please either raise your hand or just go right ahead. Beatrice?
Yes. In the crisis intervention, do you have a set of or a group of, like, say, professional counselors or that will step up to the asking if and when you need that type of intervention?
So the way that we normally will have a crisis intervention referral, if maybe somebody's had a 5150, maybe had, they had a tendency to maybe, or they expressed that maybe they had some suicidal
Right.
We do have our PERT program, which we refer those individuals to.
Okay.
They work with different agencies in San Mateo County, where we can reach out and really provide not only the children, but the as a whole, to really try and get them the help that they need, so they don't have those feelings anymore. But we have seen a rise because of the pandemic.
Right.
We have had a lot more kids within our Sheriff's Activities League that have expressed that, their parents have been laid off of work and struggling, and they, they feel saddened by this, and they're having a harder time really navigating through it. So we've been providing some in-house support as well in regards to that through art therapy. We've had some discussions and dialogues with our youth about how to cope with that, and we've provided we've worked with the Silicon Valley food with the trying to get families food and supplies that they need, especially during the pandemic. We've been really working hard at that. So, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from council members?
Hey, Ever.
Go ahead, Larry.
The county put on a good video about mental health among immigrant communities, and I watched it while I was at work, and I was really impressed with everything the county's doing to reach out, because I have a feeling that during this COVID time, everyone's under a lot of pressure, both economically and just all the politics and all that stuff. So I know juveniles parents may not tell them all the pressures they're under as far as being laid off, making the rent, how are we going to do this? Do we have to move? And I just want to applaud you for everything you're doing to reach out in a compassionate way. And I like the coordination between county health and all the other services. It would be awesome if maybe you could encourage maybe a sheriff's deputy to cross-train like a master's of social work and get some extra pay for that to be part of a intervention team rather than have to wait for a specialist to become available for a home visit. But anyway, that's all I got.
Our deputies are trained in crisis intervention, so they have a basic level where they will work with either adults or youth when they're in a crisis situation, and then we really try and do the de-escalation and talking to people rather than, because we understand when people are having a crisis, that we never know what adversity they have faced. So we really try and be compassionate and understand and think about that person as if it was somebody that, we always think about, at least that's what I preach. If that was your family member, how would you want them to be treated? So with compassion and dignity and really trying to get them the services that they need.
We truly appreciate that, Captain.
Thank you.
Brooks has a question. Go ahead. Brooks.
Yeah, quick question, Captain. What's the recidivism rate like? In the statistics that you gave out, are there many repeat? Are we having many juveniles repeating crimes or different crimes, or is that fairly low?
It's relatively low. Where we see it is where there's some type of an addiction, and the addiction happens, then they repeat, theft or some type of a larceny crime, and usually we see those kids at the later stage, so 17, and then by the time they're 18 or 19, if they haven't been able to really get into those programs that are offered, sometimes we do see them transitioning into the adult system, which, we do have a multitude of programs for. We do have the Maple Street Correctional Center, where we have programs that help them. We have Stanford coming in. We have, you can get, actually, it's not a anymore. You can actually get a high school diploma. And then we have workers that will follow them when they connect them while they're while they're incarcerated, to really try to help to see where the gap is, where that's kind of or what it is that drives them to commit the crime. And if alcohol or drugs, then we try to get them into our recovery services within the correctional facility. And then they do have follow-up with other organizations. So somebody actually will monitor them while they're incarcerated and then connect them prior to them being released. So have those support services once they are released. So I think, and especially in the adult system, they're doing a phenomenal job with really trying to connect the services, not only while they're in custody, but then following them when they're out of custody as well.
That's terrific. Thank you.
Thank you. Captain, with the pandemic and stay at home, have you seen spikes in domestic violence, or do you think that the assault and battery higher numbers that you showed us, are those related to domestic violence or not?
So, I mean, we have seen just in overall domestic violence, it's been tough during the pandemic. We continue to do our education through our dialogues. We've done PSAs. We talk about it. We had a series of, we worked with Cora and had a series for our youth, and it was healthy relationships. So they really understand what a healthy relationship is, because they may not know that within their household that there is domestic violence going on, because domestic violence comes in so many different forms. So we provided a series of classes for our youth on the coast and in Fair Oaks to really have them identify what red flags are, what help there is, not only for our youth, but then for their family members as well. We have seen a lot more depression with kids just because of the pandemic. And then on top of it, when people are sheltered in place or they're at home, maybe because, they've lost their job, we have seen that they are actually wanting to come more to our programs because they want to kind of leave the situation. So that's why we have those discussions with our kids, just to talk about, and it's really a format for them to be very just transparent, and then providing them with in private with resources that can help them or a member of their family. So we work hard at that. We completely understand how the pandemic is affecting people. So we really work hard at trying to provide services for them, whether it be through Zoom, or, having very small classes, social distanced, and, we follow the county protocols. But, kids just want to be out and be with their friends. And so we understand. So we try to provide a safe learning environment for them while following our COVID guidelines.
Right. Thank you. And when you compare North Fair Oaks to other places that are somewhat similar, do you have a slight idea on how we rate, if higher, lower, how about the same?
I mean, I think when it starts, may be about the same is with our 17, 18-year-olds, when the kids start getting a little bit more closer to becoming an adult. But for the most part, the kids in North Fair Oaks are great kids. What we always try to do is, we may have these little smaller pockets of gang activity, but that's why we want to have all our programs to support those kids, so we get them off the street and get them into a really healthy environment where they can learn and strive, and really get them thinking about college, and providing them with the resources to have a broader mind, where they know that they can do whatever they want as long as the effort and hard work towards it, and encourage them to do that. There's so many, the kids in North Fair Oaks are just so resilient, and I've seen them, and they're just such good hearts. And so we really, really try and work with the kids, because we don't want to see them go down that wrong path. And, I think sometimes kids don't think, just because of maybe how they've grown up, or, the situation, their living situation, they don't think that maybe they can go to college. But we do have programs that we take them to college campuses, and there's counselors that talk to them about how they can get financial aid, or how to apply for different types of grants to help support them to go to college. And then we have kids that are alumni that come back and talk to our current kids in our program, to talk to them about the struggles that maybe they had, and maybe what they thought they couldn't do, and how now they're they have their bachelor's degree, and they're looking forward to going back and getting a master's degree, and how they're actually helping their parents now because they have stability with their profession that they're in. So, we just continue to think about ways of encouraging our youth to strive for the best, and know that they deserve everything that that they put their heart and soul into.
Thank you very much. That's great information, uplifting also. And I'm sorry that Linda Lopez is not here tonight with us, because she was very interested. She has been, all along very interested in hearing all of these information that you brought to us tonight during your presentation. And she has also been key in implementing the youth council member seat in our council. So she would have been pleased, but I'll pass on the good news, and thank you for your presentation. I wonder if there's any public comment, Sandy?
Great. For those participating on the Zoom call, now's the time to raise your hands if you have any public comment on this agenda item. I don't see any raised hands on the call. Victor, are there any public comments on the phone line?
Thanks, Sandra. I don't see any at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you. Thanks again, Captain Corpus, for joining us tonight.
Sure. And if you ever want me to come back and bring some of the youth that we've worked with, I'd be more than happy to do that. And I'm sure that they would be more than happy to, tell the council a little bit about their story and how they turn themselves around.
That would be great. Yeah, we miss young people. The young people from the Siena Youth Center used to come all the time, and they just liven up our meetings. So we will take you up on that at some point. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good evening.
Good evening. And so now we will have item number 4. Sorry for jumping back and forth, but Captain Corpus had an emergency that required her to present earlier than anticipated. We'll have for item number 4 presentation by Ann Stillman, Deputy Director for Public Works, and also Mr. Jose Morenos, Business Liaison for the Office of Community Affairs.
Good evening. This is Ann Stillman with the County of San Mateo Department of Public Works, Deputy Director of Engineering and Resource Protection. And I'm here tonight to just give you a little bit of an update or what's changed since the last time we were in front of you, which I believe was in July. This is in regards to the Middlefield Road Improvement Project. So we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. This is a bit of a refresher, so I'm just going to go through it really quickly. You've seen a lot of these slides. I think the big change is just the schedule. So this project involves road improvements along Middlefield Road from Pacific Avenue to 5th Avenue and undergrounding the overhead utility lines between MacArthur Avenue and 5th Avenue, and also replacing the sewer lines, the sewer pipes between Douglas Avenue and 6th Avenue. So this is just a map depicting kind of the general area and highlighting some of the specific streets. We could go to the next slide, please. And you've seen this slide before too, but this is just generally what we're doing, which is that, you know, we're changing the lane configuration to 1 lane in each direction on Middlefield Road with a left-hand turn lane in the middle. We're widening the sidewalks. We're adding new streetlights because as the existing streetlights are all on the wooden poles will be going away. So we'll be installing new streetlights that will light up the roadway and also pedestrian lights. We're installing buffered bike lanes along the roadway, high visibility crosswalks. So we call them ladder crosswalks, those things you see on the screen, crossing Middlefield Road and the side streets. We have rectangular rapid flashing beacons for each of the crossings across Middlefield Road where somebody can push the button and then the sign lights up to alert people that somebody's crossing the street. Putting in new traffic signals, street trees along the roadway, installing bike racks and benches, trash and recycling receptacles. Like I said, putting the overhead utilities underground and installing some green infrastructure and stormwater treatment features to help with the stormwater water quality. Next slide, please. You've seen this view before, but this is the rendition or the rendering of what the roadway would eventually look like with the bulb outs at the cross streets and the street lights, street trees, bike lane, etc. Next slide, please. There's a lot on this slide, and I know you can't read it. Just it's really to highlight the fact that we will be adding traffic signals that will include Hurlingham, Pacific, and also the driveway to the clinic and Redwood Junction. And these will all be tied to the railroad crossing so that if there happens to be a train coming by, all traffic will stop to clear the roadway for the train to pass by. So they're all going to be interconnected, which means that we have been and continue to work with the railroad on this. Next slide, please. This also is showing some of the changes. This is really trying to depict that North Side will become a one-way road. So you'll be able to drive out of North Side onto Middlefield Road and turn right only. The railroad has required that we install a median in the middle of Middlefield Road and precluding right turns from, I call it left turns, from southbound Middlefield Road onto North Side. And so this will be a change in configuration for the way vehicular traffic moves around in this particular area. Next slide, please. So this is the change since the last time we talked to you. We talked about our schedule last time for bidding the project. And after that meeting, we were really given the direction to get it out sooner, the project out sooner. So right now the project is out to bid. And the board adopted the plans and specs on October 23rd at their board meeting. We have a bid open date of December 15th. At this point, we wouldn't plan to change that unless something large came up during the bid process. So far, things are going well. And then we anticipate to award the contract in late January or February. I feel like I'm couching that slightly just because we really do need to open the bids, see how things look, make sure there are no big surprises or problems with that, and then plan to award the contract end of January or February. And then typically a contractor would be out there at the earliest, it would be a month, but this is a very large project. The engineer's estimate or our cost estimate for the project is $28.9 million. There's a lot going on in this project. So we will want to make sure that we take the time to review the bids, and there will be a lot that the contractor will need to submit and we'll have to approve before we will really let them begin work. And as you know, Middlefield Road is a busy quarter. There's a lot going on, and working with the traffic, business owners, the pedestrians, everything that's going on needs a lot of careful consideration and staging and planning. I think you can go to the next slide then. Questions. If there are any questions now, or maybe we could move in. I mean, it depends on how we want to work this. The next part of this presentation will be given by Jose. So it may be good to just sort of work through his presentation as well, and then take questions at the end.
Yeah, that'll work because
Okay.
it is related, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah. Let's have the next presentation, and then we'll have questions at the end. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Jose Moreno. I want to thank council members and members of the public for allowing me the opportunity to give you some broad overall view of the goals, tactics, and ways that we're going to be looking at and keeping folks informed as the project moves forward. If we could have the first slide, Sandy, thank you.
Is this
next
that
slide
you're referring to?
Oh, it was the next slide. I'm
Keep
sorry.
scrolling. Yeah.
Next slide of the of the next presentation is what I meant. It's right after the question slide.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I thought that was it. Sorry.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. So thank you again. And these are some of the broad overreaching goals or overarching goals that that we want to accomplish as we or DPW and the construction company that gets picked is starting to work. We want to be able to identify and communicate potential disruptions, because we know there are going to be, and inconveniences. We want to maintain goodwill and minimize frustration for everyone that uses the corridors, folks that shop, people that are driving through there, business owners, everyone concerned, and everyone that touches the corridor. We want to build community support, and I just want to point out that we've actually been working on this, or I've been working on this along with the team already, by getting out there, meeting folks, engaging with them. A lot of the restaurants on some of the COVID guidelines that need to be followed, as well as other businesses that I've been reaching out to in the last almost a year now, coming up in February, that have been on board. We also want to avoid, I think this is one of the key things that we want to achieve in our communication goals, is avoid the spread of misinformation, put an end to any rumors about things that may or may not be happening, and address those challenges as they arise. Again, leverage local support and build trust from the community. When we're going to say we're going to do something, we will do our utmost to be able to address any of the challenges that folks are having during the construction. But I think most importantly, the best way to describe our role is going to be, from the communications perspective, is to serve as a bridge between the construction company, DPW, business owners, residents, folks that travel through the corridor, and be able to address their concerns. Next slide, please. Some of the strategies we're going to be using is two-way communications. We know how important it is for our communications to be in both English and Spanish. And as we've done in the past, and we will continue to do this through the whole project, is any information, any packets, any messaging that we are putting before the community and folks that are commuting through there, as well as the businesses, is going to be bilingual in both Spanish and English. Most of all, we want to be able to keep all the stakeholders well informed of any upcoming construction activities that may impact them. So we want to get out ahead of it and try to get and give as much advance information to folks so that they are not surprised. We want to develop a communication infrastructure that responds quickly to challenges and provide a mechanism to share complaints and issues in person. We want to be able to, look at someone in the eye when they have a complaint or an issue, and talk to them face to face, if possible, to be able to get their concern addressed. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned earlier, there's going to be a lot of folks that we're going to be having to communicate with, as you see on the slide. And as I mentioned earlier, we're talking about the residents, the businesses, employees. There's a lot of housing units near, as well as, apartment complexes that are near the construction activities. There are several schools in the area. So, we know that, and we need to keep that in mind as we do our outreach. There's visitors that are just, passing through that are trying to reach either, one freeway or another and use that corridor as a way to get from one place to another. There's a lot of commercial businesses in the construction zone. And we want to be able to work also with print, broadcast, and social media to expand the universe and get the message to as many audiences as possible. And also, those organizations whose operations are going to be affected by construction. A lot of delivery trucks go through the restaurants, the tienditas, the markets that are there on Middlefield Road. And, we want to be able to give them advance information when their trucks are going to be delivering product, that there may be some impact to their delivery schedule, so they can coordinate and be able to have products and services delivered to their businesses. Next slide, please. So how are we going to do this? One of the main ways that we want to be able to communicate to folks is to drive them to one site where they can get all the information and where it is most up to date. Department of Public Works has a Middlefield Road webpage where we're going to be driving folks to that site as much as possible to be able to have them keep informed on what's happening. For those folks that don't have access to the internet, we are also going to be setting up a project hotline where folks can call in their complaint, ask a question, address a concern by being able to call us. We want to be able to provide project updates on a regular basis. As I mentioned earlier, we've been doing outreach to Middlefield Road businesses for quite a while now. We've developed a text application, or we're using a text application that the county uses to get the word out to residents. And we've compiled quite a comprehensive list of phone numbers and cell phones specifically, and email addresses, where right now we are sending information out to a lot of those businesses, or the majority of the business that we have those cell phone numbers and email addresses to, that we've already been using. Sandy has been very instrumental in helping me put the list together. And then also she manages the application so that we are able to send messages to folks out in the community. We want to have plenty of signage along the roadway, letting folks know of what's happening with the project, what traffic diversions are going to be taking place. And also part of that signage is also as a way to keep the site and the location of the project very safe for the construction workers also. We want to be very cognizant of the construction crews that are going to be working out there in a very tight space, and we want to make sure that they're safe also. As we are today, we want to keep coming to the NFOCC to come and help keep you up to date on what is going on, so then you can also be our ambassadors and messengers and get the word out to the community and those folks that you interact with and communicate with to help us get the message out. And also, we're going to be using a lot of social media to be getting, again, word out to folks about driving them to the website, so that, if they want to give us their cell phone number or an email address that we can respond to them, we can use that media channel to be able to get out to those folks also. Next slide, please. One of the things that we're very cognizant of is the fact that, the businesses along Middlefield Road, just like all businesses, have been impacted by COVID. and we don't want to add on to that burden. And we want to do everything that we can to be able to get the word out about what's going to be happening during the construction phase. One of the first things that we want to advertise, or not advertise, but also get the word out to the community is, what the schedule is going to be. As soon as we have that schedule and we know when the heavy construction is going to start, we're going to be knocking on doors. We're going to be visiting the businesses, as we already have mentioned. We're going to be putting posters out. We want to get banners and signage up and let everybody know that this work is going on. But at the same time, we want to be supporting the businesses along Middlefield Road, letting passersby, folks that frequent the businesses, that the businesses are open, they're accessible, encouraging folks to use any of the parking spaces that we provided, that we built and put out there to be able to park and then get to Middlefield Road, or figure out a way to get to the business that they want to access safely. And then also keep hammering, or not hammering, but keep folks aware of the DPW website address, where we will have all of the most current information. Next slide, please. And as you noted earlier, we saw a timeline of what's going to be taking place. As we mentioned, January, February is the time where DPW is looking at awarding the contract. Soon after that, you want to get together with the construction company, look at the timeline, and hopefully hammer that out. As Ann had mentioned earlier, that may take some back and forth, quite a bit of back and forth, to figure out, how you're going to do this very large project that Ann mentioned. That's very complex, has a lot of phases, and a lot of work that's going to happen. So getting a schedule out takes a little bit of work ahead of time. But as soon as we know at least what type of schedule, we want to get the word out to the community. Hope to get out there sometime around spring, and around what the announce to the community, have a meeting, or get the word up about what the project timeline is going to look like. And by around the same time, we're looking at a way or a location where we might be able to meet with folks and talk to them on a regular basis if they have issues that are going on during the construction project. And I think that wraps up my presentation. Thank you very much. If you have any questions for Ann or I, we'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you both, Mr. Moreno and Ms. Stillman, for your presentation. We appreciate the details and the good news that it has been moved up. A lot of residents are wondering and concerned about this very upgrade to Middlefield Road, and I'm happy to see that things are moving on. Are there any questions from council members? Please go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brooks.
Yeah, a couple of questions. Actually, the first one for Ann, if I'm not mistaken, in 2013, the board authorized $13 million for the project using Measure K funds. You mentioned the engineer's current estimate is $28.9 million. I just wanted to confirm that the board is aware of that. We're not waiting for sealed bids to come in at that price or something perhaps higher. That's not going to be a surprise to the board, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Right, that's certainly something that we have discussed with the county manager's office, and they're aware of that. And we'll just have to see how the bids do come in. Part of that number that I gave you includes about $5.5 million for the undergrounding work. So the road work and trees and everything else is like $22 million. But yes, they're aware.
Okay.
And the estimate was a number of years ago and needed to put forward sort of a number based on the best information we had. And certainly the project has evolved into what it is today.
Okay, that's terrific. My concern was I didn't want the Board of Supervisors to be surprised and, oh my goodness, we can't afford this and that sort of thing. The second question.
Absolutely, and we wouldn't want to take it out to bid unless we were all on the same page with that either.
That's terrific. Newbie here, first timer
Yes.
question kind of thing. So thank you for that. One more question, I think probably for Jose. In terms of outreach, Jose, are there design choices that are available to the businesses on Middlefield that can be offered to individual business owners? So I guess what I'm wondering is if I own a restaurant there, I'd like to make sure that when the sidewalk is widened, I have space for outdoor tables, perhaps, rather than having, a large tree planted out in front of my restaurant. So are those details being provided to the potential contractors, and are they incorporating things like that into their bids, or is that something that we might need some input from the individual business owners on in terms of their individual preferences?
And I think that's a question for you.
Yeah,
Agree.
I'm going to defer Dan.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree. So all of that information had to be nailed down in the plans and specs.
Okay.
So the plans very clearly lay out where everything is to be placed. I mean, that's not to say that things don't come up in the field that make you have to do some modifications, but things, door openings, driveways, we're working around a lot of concerns.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously, if you put a tree and then the business signage is now blocked, that's problematic. So we understand all of that. So carefully trying to position the trees for success and that they don't take away from, certainly the businesses and their customers.
That's great. Not an easy job. Thank you, Ann.
I guess just the other thing is you were asking about sidewalks and outside dining. I mean, the sidewalks are where, are dimensioned to particular width. We're not necessarily bulbing out in front of certain businesses or anything like that to widen them per se.
Mm-hmm. Okay, no, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And Blair, do you have a question? Or
just a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Between COVID and tearing up the street, a lot of small businesses might just go under. So I want to be empathetic and compassionate and make sure that we're doing everything we can for the small business owners. The landlords, they're going to stay in business. They're still going to own the land and the buildings. But it's going to be real important to do everything possible for existing businesses that have stayed in business to continue to stay in business and to make it to the other side where they can thrive. And then I got a suggestion. There's like a liquor billboard halfway up the street, and I'm old school. If we could just rent that billboard, get the liquor ad off, and say "coming soon" and show them what the street's going to look like, and then put our County of San Mateo Public Works website, questions, because when I'm riding a bike or walking around, I dig looking at the signage, and that's when people are thinking about it. All these little whisper channels with texting and all that, you'll reach different segments, but a billboard will reach all sorts of people that are walking, biking, and passing through there.
I appreciate that suggestion. That's a good one.
Thank you, Blair. Yeah, and just to underline the comment of Blair, the business situation is currently extremely precarious for many, and by all means, we would like to re-emphasize somehow working directly with them to provide them support. And I'm wondering, and this is as a request, I'm wondering if there can be designated curbside pickup spaces available, offered to some of the business, or whoever is interested. I know that not all the businesses might be interested in losing some of the parking spaces right outside their businesses, but for those who thrive on pick up food or merchandising, I think offering that option of designated space for curbside pickup would be a great help. So if at all possible, that would be fantastic. I had one question about maybe for Ann Stillman. What side is this? Is the construction supposed to be starting again?
I'm sorry, did you say what side? What?
Yeah, like is it starting on the Pacific side or on the Fifth Avenue side?
Right. So right now, it's staged to start at Fifth Avenue and work its way north.
And is it going?
And we're right now, the way the suggested phasing is set up is that the contractor would have 2 blocks on one side to work at a time. We will, though, see what contractors come up with or possibly suggest in terms of the way to tackle the project. It might be slightly different than that. But right now, the way it's laid out, it would be starting at the south and working towards the railroad.
Great. Thank you. Are there any additional questions from council members? Otherwise, we can check and see if there's any public comment. Sandy?
Okay, absolutely. So now for public, you may raise your hand using the raise hand feature. I do see 2 public comments. And so just go ahead and give me a second. I will unmute you. And once you see the stopwatch, you may begin speaking. Ms. Eulate, I'm going to unmute you now.
Great. Thank you for taking my comments. My observation on your slide deck is that you were using public art from North Fair Oaks, Jose Castro's mural, and Kent Maskey's sculptures. I'm wondering if there are any plans to have public art along Middlefield Road, and if there are plans, how is the public going to be involved in making any of those decisions? Thank you.
I guess I can chime in with that. Certainly was something that was discussed during the process to come up with the project elements that were approved and recommended to the Board of Supervisors. And one of the areas where we have some space for different treatments is really at the corner, I think it's 2nd and Middlefield, where we have the opportunity to have a different type of a bench and treatment like that. But when it comes to additional artwork, that's not included in our project. That's not to say there aren't future opportunities, but it certainly was something that was discussed through the development of the recommended elements of the project.
Right. If I remember correctly, some of the features like tree planters were discussed at some point, bicycle racks and benches. Also included some type of artistic design to them, but I'd have to take a look at the plan again to be reminded of that. And there may still be possibilities once the essential infrastructure is set up of looking at the art possibilities to be incorporated.
Right. And I mean, thanks, Eva, for bringing that up, because really working through the process, we did look at all sorts of different elements, including the color palettes, like for the street lights, the style of street lights, garbage cans, bike racks, tree palettes, types of trees, enhancements that could be made in where there's space for it in terms of a different type of bench. So we did work through that, and there was a look and feel document that was developed, and things were selected from that based on community input and a series of meetings.
We can get the next public comment, Sandy.
Okay, great. So now we have Ms. Gabriela Valencia. Ms. Valencia, I'm going to unmute you and please begin speaking once you see the timer on your screen. Okay, Ms. Valencia, could you unmute yourself?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you for taking my comment. I would like to ask for clarification from Ms. Stillman. She mentioned something about having a divider in the middle of the street where they wouldn't be able to make a turn, and I'm not sure I understood that. So if she could comment on that, and I'm wondering if that is like right where the clinic happens to be, and if that would mean that somebody coming on Meadowfield Road from Fifth Avenue wouldn't be able to turn onto the clinic. So I just would like to get clarification on that. And the other thing that I wanted to share is that I would like to ask the council to consider establishing a plan ahead of time for maintenance, because that's a huge problem right now. And I think it will continue to be a problem if we don't have a plan in place. The changes that were made in the Meadowfield Road section that were made many, many years ago, they look pretty run down. The trees have been planted for more than 10 years now, and none of them have been allowed to grow because many times they get chopped up or they die and they don't get replaced. You notice the sidewalks were redone, but they look so dirty because there's no regular scheduling for cleaning. I believe there was at some point some talk about power washing, but I think it was a one-time thing. And I think that it's important to consider establishing a maintenance plan early on to prevent this from just going to waste, given that the county is going to put in so much money and the community is going to make a huge sacrifice, especially our small businesses that are hurting right now, and they're going to be sacrificing a lot for this. So please consider that. Thank you.
Okay, so your first question was about the median that I was describing, and it is shown in the drawing, but not very well. So if it is placed on, I would call it the north side of the railroad track. So if you're coming from Fifth Avenue and you're driving towards Woodside Road, once you cross over the tracks on your left-hand side, there would be a median there. What it's really trying to prevent is the railroad does not want anybody that's coming out of North Side and turning left, heading down on Fifth Avenue to get trapped on the railroad tracks. And they also don't want anybody to get trapped, be like heading southbound on Fifth Avenue and turning left onto North Side. So it changes the configuration there. And it will not, though, it does not prevent or deter turning movements into the driveway for the clinic and Redwood Junction. And as I mentioned too, the driveway will be part of this large signalized intersection. So things will be connected. The driveway will have a traffic signal. Getting in and out will be controlled by a signal. That will also be connected to the movements from Pacific Avenue and also Hurlingham Avenue. So they're all connected and also connected to the railroad. So there's an interconnect. The driveway at the clinic, right now, the driveway pretty much crosses over the railroad tracks, and the railroad that's not acceptable to them. So this project, part of what it's doing is it's pushing the driveway to the clinic and Redwood Junction towards the south. So reconfiguring that too. And there will be a dedicated, if you're coming from Fifth Avenue towards Woodside Road and you want to get into the clinic, there's a dedicated left-hand turn lane there on Middlefield Road to allow that particular movement. And then people coming out of the clinic too. If you want to come out of the clinic and you're heading towards Woodside Road, that will be signalized. I mean, many of us or all of us are probably pretty familiar with how that operates now. It will be different. It will be controlled with signalization. I think your other, do you have any questions on that? Was it? Okay. Well, Gabriella's muted, so okay. Then the next part would be your questions about, I think, maintenance plan and establishing a maintenance plan. Yes, for sure. That is a really important element. I think that this segment of Middlefield Road has a lot, there will be a lot more features to it, especially when it comes to green. So whether it's trees or it's green infrastructure, a lot more in the way of handling of storm water and trying to clean it up in terms of particulate matters and things like that. There's, we've been asked to include electrical to the trees so that the trees can be lit up with string lights. All of that takes maintenance for sure. I think that the technology also, the way people are looking at street trees and green infrastructure has changed a lot too, or certainly there have been enhancements made it in terms of how to construct and the size you need to give or allocate for trees so that they can be more successful in terms of their growth. So that's size and its types of material that are included too. And I think when it comes to this sidewalk cleaning, the county manager was very instrumental in ensuring that the existing sidewalks were clean. So I think there was some zero turn, a special sweeping that took place on the sidewalks in the past, but having a plan to maintain the infrastructure, the trees, the green infrastructure that will be constructed out there is a very important piece to ensuring the success and keeping it looking its best.
Thank you very much for the clarification and the comments.
And thank you both. We will move on. Thank you, Ms. Tillman and Mr. Moreno for your presentation. We will move on to the next item.
Oh, and through the chair, just needed to check with Victor if there's any comments
I'm sorry.
online. That's okay.
Thank you, Sandra. I don't see any at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so the next item on the agenda will be a presentation by Planning and Building Department Compliance. And this will be brought to us by Lisa Osasa, Deputy Director for Planning and Building. Welcome.
All right, good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here with you this evening. My name is Lisa Awazasa, Deputy Director for Planning and Building. And thank you, Sandra, for manning the slideshow for me. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. So I'm here this evening to give you a brief overview of the Planning and Building Department and a little bit more of a detailed focus on our code compliance section. And I know that many of you are familiar with the work that we do in planning and building, but for those of you who aren't, our mission here is on the screen, and it is to serve the county and its communities through the preparation and administration of land use plans and regulations, and by ensuring development proposals conform with applicable zoning and building requirements. So basically what that means is that we're helping to ensure that communities and the environment are safe, healthy, and thriving by implementing the regulations that have been land use regulations that have been adopted by the Board of Supervisors. So next slide, please. We accomplish our mission through, we have three main programs. They are planning, building, code compliance, and then we have our technical and administrative support section. So with regard to planning, what we're focused on in that section is basically figuring out where different types of land uses should be located so that land use conflicts are minimized. That's in a nutshell what planning is about. Building is focused on ensuring that new construction is done according to adopted building codes so that buildings are built safely. And our code compliance section is focused on ensuring that properties are maintained in a safe and clean condition. So that's essentially what the different sections are focused on. And I'm going to, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. I'm going to touch just briefly on what the focus has been for each of our sections really over the last few months. And starting off with planning, I know I've had the pleasure of working with many of you over the last couple of years on our rezoning efforts. Those were focused on implementing the North Fair Oaks Community Plan that was adopted by the Board of Supervisors and centered on updating our zoning regulations, primarily in the industrial and commercial areas of North Fair Oaks. And that was a multi-year effort that involved a lot of outreach, a lot of community input. We are finished with that finally, and we are starting to see many new projects come in under the new zoning. Some are just in the planning and proposal stage. Some have applications actually submitted and are under review, and a few are under construction and nearing completion. An example of that, of course, is the new affordable housing development, the Fair Oaks Commons development on El Camino, which is 100% affordable housing. So that's one project that has taken advantage of the new zoning regulations and is all the way through to completion. But there are many other projects that are in the pipeline. Another thing that our planning staff has been very busy with in recent months is the processing of permits for accessory dwelling units, or ADUs as they're called. I know many of you may be familiar with the fact that the state laws were changed to make, and local jurisdictions were required to adopt new regulations, making it easier to develop accessory dwelling units, which are second units or granny units. They go by various names in single family residential areas. So that is proving to be a very popular program. We're seeing quite a few permit applications in for folks who want to build those accessory units, either attached to their existing house or detached in their rear yard. That's something we're spending a lot of time on the planning side. Next, please. So on the building side of the house, we've had to spend, as a result of the pandemic, our offices are closed to the public, and most of our staff is working remotely. So that has really accelerated our move toward conducting most of our permit processing via electronic methods or online. And it was a tough transition to just all of a sudden go from having often 50 to 100 people in our lobby every day to now having to work with people remotely. But we're working hard at improving that process, and we're trying our best to keep up with what's really been a tremendous volume of building permits that have been coming in. You might have thought that things would slow down as a result of the pandemic, but that's not been our experience. So our staff is really, really busy processing building permits. We've also had to have our inspectors shift gears, and rather than being out in the field and working with contractors to do inspections in person, we've adopted a new system that allows for inspections to occur remotely using just cameras, iPhones, iPads, and that's proving to be a very effective and efficient way to conduct inspections. It's not going to work in every situation. Sometimes you actually have to be out in the field to see what's going on, but it's actually proving to be a very effective tool that we will continue to use going forward, even once we're all back to normal, hopefully someday. So next slide, please. So with regard to code compliance, we are very short-staffed at the moment. So one of our focuses is on on making sure that we fill vacancies in our code compliance staff. Our hope is that over the next couple of months, we'll be able to conduct those recruitments, and we'll end up maybe in the hopefully in the February timeframe with a senior code compliance officer and two code compliance officers dedicated to the North Fair Oaks area. So that's something that we are working on right now. And our in addition to being short-staffed on the code compliance side, we're also finding that the work that they do is very challenging in this COVID environment, because it really involves working very closely with folks that have land use violation issues that they're trying to resolve. And a lot of the work that our officers do is, they're out there in the field working with these people to explain what the problems are and to help them figure out what the solutions are to resolve the violations. And that's something we just can't really do right now. So it's difficult. But even so, we are doing the best we can to keep up with our workload and focus in particular on our priority projects. And if you can go to the next slide, we can go ahead and talk just briefly about the priorities. So when we do have more than we can handle, we do have to prioritize. And this is generally the way things work. We're going to look at addressing issues that are threats to life and safety first, trying to eliminate any hazardous conditions. If there are violations that are dealing in this area, that's first priority. And then the next two are really kind of equal, I would say, in terms of priority. It just really depends on the specific situation. But the other areas that we work on are grading, tree removal, and property or environmental destruction, and then nuisances and dumping and trash, junk, and debris, that sort of thing. So all of these are extremely important, but at times such as now, when we do have to prioritize. So this is sort of the way we try to even out the workload. Okay, next slide. So with regard to our current cases in North Fair Oaks, we currently have 115 open violation cases. We've had 36 new complaints come in during 2020. We've been able to close 32 cases in 2020. So again, while we're not making as much progress as we would hope to, we are managing to kind of keep things. We're managing to keep up with the work, and look forward to when we have more staff on board to really make even more progress. And then with regard to the types of complaints and cases that we're dealing with, it's 85 to 90% are construction or building without permits, and about 10 to 15% are things like junk, trash, and debris and dumping. So next slide. And so that wraps up my very brief overview of the department and of our code compliance section. And I'm happy to take any questions that you have this evening, or I'm happy to hear from you later on. Always want to be familiar with what your concerns are out in the community. So thank you very much. And I'll be glad to take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Lisa, for your presentation. Thanks for joining us. We are getting pretty close to 9 p.m. So unless council members have a burning question that you must ask, I would suggest that we move to public comment to see if there's any.
Oh, okay, so I do not see any public comments, any hands raised on the Zoom call. Victor, are there any comments on the phone line?
Thanks, Sandy. There's none at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much again, Lisa, for coming and presenting to us. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so let us move on to reports. Do we have a supervisor's report?
Good evening, council members. This is Maggie with Supervisor Slocum's office. I just want to tell you briefly, you might see some new hand sanitizers on Middlefield Road that we were able, the Department of Public Works was able to install, and Justin and that department were working on it. And we have 2 on each county parking lot, and there's 2 on 5th Avenue in Middlefield that intersect those, that main intersection. So then there should be some signage coming soon where we encourage the public to wear masks. So we're pretty excited about that. And if there's any other questions, that concludes my report.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you, Maggie. Great hearing from you. And yeah, I've seen the hand sanitizers. I wish I could share the photo. I took a photo on my cell phone, but
how cool.
They're automatic, electronic. Essentially, you just put your hand underneath. They're very close to the traffic buttons. So as soon as you put your hand underneath, it squirts some hand sanitizer, which is great. We appreciate that.
Oh, great. I'm glad. Thank you.
Do we have any county managers report?
No, only to wish everybody a very safe holiday season. Thank you all.
Thank you, Justin. Likewise. And do we have any council members reports? Go ahead, Brooks.
A couple of things that came out of the NRT meeting today. Ever and I had been going back and forth with regard to the work that was done on 5th Avenue, and I see we still have Ann on the line, so she can correct me if I make any mistakes on this. It was a Cal Water project doing water mains, connections to homes, and fire hydrants. Apparently, the street work is not done, which explains kind of the bumpiness of the street. Our inspectors still need to take a look at the work and make sure it meets our standards. And Cal Water apparently is going to come back and replace any temporary fill with something more permanent. And did confirm that microsurfacing is going to happen on 5th next year. It's an OBAG project managed by MTC, and a bike lane is going to go in at that time. So the street will be resurfaced next year. Other thing I heard today that I thought was exciting was the results of the latest Project Homekey grants that came out. This is a state-funded program to purchase hotels for use as interim housing. 2 of them are being purchased for San Mateo County. One is affordable housing for seniors, and another is going to be homeless shelter capacity as an ongoing resource. That is $33 million for 2 projects, 170 units in total. One of them is going to be the Town Place Suites in Redwood City. The other one is the Pacific Inn in Redwood City. So buildings that have been purchased for interim housing. Pretty close to our area. That's all I have.
Great news. Thank you, Brooks, for attending the NRT meetings.
Certainly.
Any other council members report? Otherwise, I'd like to just briefly mention that I'm working with the organization, nonprofit organization Canopy. They secured about 260 trees from Cal Fire, and those trees will be offered to North Fair Oaks residents free, and the Canopy staff would come to your house and make the hole and plant the tree for you. Everything is provided, everything is free, and it includes 3 years of maintenance for that tree, professional maintenance. There is an incentive if you decide to plant your tree closer to the street so as to provide shading to the sidewalk. There's an incentive that we were able to secure from the Board of Supervisors, a gift card for $100 towards gardening equipment. So if you can please pass that on to your neighbors who live in North Fair Oaks, unfortunately is only within the confines of North Fair Oaks. But please pass it on to neighbors and advertise it widely. We are hoping to bring in more trees to reduce the heat island effect, particularly in the northern part of North Fair Oaks. There aren't too many trees, and trees not only beautify, they reduce temperatures, they provide oxygen and sequester CO2. So it is the perfect solution for, for climate change. So by all means, please advertise it. And I'm going to share in the chat the information for the contact we have for Canopy. You can copy it and share it with everyone you know. Maya is responsible for that from Canopy, and she's very knowledgeable, very responsive, and also very excited about this project. It's a great opportunity. And let me see. I think that's the most important item that I should share, considering that it's already 9 or 3. And so finally, before adjourning, I just want to wish you a safe and healthy end of the year. Tonight is our last council meeting for this year. We won't meet in December. Our next meeting is going to be on the 4th Thursday of January, and we will be sending further notifications about that next meeting and agenda items. So thank you, everyone. Happy holidays. Be safe, enjoy, relax. And thank you all for your work and your participation. Very much appreciated. Good night.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you all.